Hello all, welcome back to our course on digital accessibility. In the previous week, we spoke about accessibility evaluation tools, and we also kind of gave a tutorial on the Wave and Lighthouse, which are very popular web accessibility tools. We also discussed mobile accessibility tools and what are the different ways or techniques to basically fix accessibility issues, and what are the various aspects one needs to consider when they are developing using accessibility in mind. That is what we covered in the previous week. This week, what we are trying to dive deep into is understanding at what point should we say that it is enough. Because as we discussed in the previous week in one of the sessions, it there are several, for each type of issue there may be 6 to 7 possible use cases, and that kind of multiplies into a lot of use cases, and then the evaluation also happens in 4 to 5 segments or pillars, and that may take a lot of time, as well as there is no basically dead end to or completion certification which can be offered, right? So what is that optimal level where development should stop? Otherwise, we can keep extending the timelines, but our organizations may not be very keen on doing so, right? Because time is money. So today we will talk about accessibility optimization. So, and how far one should go when we are talking about including accessibility at a core level, at a development level itself. So accessibility is a spectrum, really. In terms of its user-centered value, it's not really a binary aspect or a binary parameter. This is something which we did discuss in the previous week. However, when we put accessibility in the jar of compliance, then it suddenly becomes black or white. It is either pass or fail, right? So then it fails to be on a spectrum. So then basically this is where the thresholds are of pass or fail. Then that means only this much is compliant, rest all is not compliant. So really what we want to say, that accessibility actually as a concept, since we have been trying to discuss all of these aspects about accessibility over the past few weeks, it's not really binary, it's on a spectrum. However, the questions which students or policymakers may ask, that is this particular website accessible or not? The question itself is binary. It's a yes or no answer, 0 or 1. The real answer is that it's not really on a yes or no, it's a spectrum. So at a level 0, it can be blocking all disabled users. At a level A, minimum basic accessibility, it removes major accessibility barriers, but still usability, ease of use is still not there, so it may be still frustrating. Double A, level double A, that is the industry standards, that is the legal standard as well. So that is why if your website or your product is WCAG double A compliant, then it is a legally compliant product. Then it may also offer good user experience because most of the issues are compliant at a AA level. And I hope you remember from the WCAG sessions what A level or AA level and AAA level means. If you don't remember, you can go back to those sessions and maybe refer back, or you can just go to the WCAG website, the WCAG document, and there are filters, there are where you can filter the levels and just try to see from the level perspective, right? Because right now this is what we are talking about. So maybe if you want, you can freeze the video for a bit, go to the WCAG website and refer to what is the meaning of leveled compliance. So AAA may be more aspirational, it's a gold standard. Most of the issues or compliant aspects mentioned in the AAA level are very difficult to achieve, may offer the best possible experiences and inclusion for a large number of audience. So the reality is that most organizations aim for AA and implement some AAA selectively, largely because AA is also legal requirements, right? So again, from a legal perspective aspect as well, we have spoken about the RPWD Act in the initial weeks. We have also spoken about the GIGW benchmark, which is also same as AA WCAG level compliance. So the question where we did discuss this $50,000 question in one of the previous sessions in the previous week, where which type of methodology one should use. Else, I mean, one may be a little bit more resource intensive, but may cost you less in terms of correction after launch, or if you have to pay fines because of non-compliant and legal non-compliance, and eventually you end up paying more money. And in the beginning, if you invest in, say, hiring accessibility experts or including accessibility evaluation software and quality analysis in your development process itself, that may really cost you less. So that real cost analysis from an e-commerce site, if we have to kind of take it as an example. So what is a scenario? We are saying that's a mid-size e-commerce platform which has about 50 pages. So option one is WCAG AA compliance. So earlier, when we were talking about in the previous week, we were talking about non-compliance versus compliance. Here we are talking about optimization. So please listen carefully. And if you want to contrast the same example from the previous week's session, you can go ahead and do that. So accessibility audit may cost you some money, then remediation may cost you some money, testing may cost you some money, and it costs around X number of dollars, which is say 41,000. Timeline is 3 months, and result is that 95% of the users can access. For a AAA WCAG compliance, everything from A plus additional. So sign language videos for all content may require hiring sign language experts, extra recording time and all of that. Extended audio descriptions, reading level 8th grade max, so content rewriting may be required, enhanced contrast, so design overhaul may be required. So this may reach up to almost 2x amount, and time also is 2x, and the result is 98% of the users are getting access. So the increment in value addition is very little. So it is almost 0.2x, right? 0.02x actually, sorry, 0.02x. So 2%, right? So then one has to take a call as to where they should stop, right? So this is the reason why most of the industry standards stop at WCAG AA compliance. So what, it's like 2x for the cost for just 3% more coverage. So the question is that 2% or 3% coverage worth the 2x cost and the 2x time also? Here it doesn't say time, but time is of value as well. So the opportunity cost of that 3 more months is also being taken into account. The context matters. So let us try to understand what is the meaning of good enough, right? Because when we say good enough, how do we define, that? So one of the major aspects is that context changes everything. So what is the meaning of good enough will largely depend on which context the product is serving. So let us take a few examples and maybe you can try to guess, right? So, for example, for this scenario, which is like a government healthcare portal. Now, we have already in the previous slide, we have seen that there is a time, respective time and cost investment, which may increase if we want to go beyond AA, compliance. So, in case of a government healthcare portal, what kind of context are we serving? So, that we have to keep in mind when we are thinking. So, maybe I'll try to give you a minute to think what would be the right answer here. Do we want to go, do you want to stop at AA compliance and call that good enough? Or do we want to go beyond AA? Probably the right answer is AAA compliance, right? Particularly because A, it contains life critical information. It's the government healthcare portal. There is, public funding, so costs, 2x costs or 2x time may also be, the government may be okay with providing that. Also, it's a legal requirement wherever the product is of critical health information, life critical information. It should be AAA compliant. That means no barriers for anybody. A scenario two, let's think about that. So, hospital emergency system. Again, it also contains life critical information. So probably here also the right answer is AAA compliant, and if there is a possibility to go beyond that as well in terms of usability and user experience, maybe we should try to do that. Why? Because literally it's life or death related information, so there is zero tolerance for errors or barrier. Now let's take other kind of examples. So for example, what about a personal blog? Should we stop at AA, or what does the legal system say? Yes, the right answer is that yes, we can stop at AA. AA is reasonable. Some AAA elements may be nice to have. Why? Because it's a personal blog. That person may have limited budget. They may be able to put in some basic amount of effort with available resources, both in terms of time as well as money. Let's take another scenario. So, for example, we're building a banking app. What do you think should be the reasonable level of compliance in this case? Yes, the right answer is AA. It's minimum required. Otherwise, it's a legal issue as well. Okay? And selective features may have AAA compliance as well. Nice to have. Because first is financial access is an essential information, and legal liability is much higher in this kind of a scenario because audits etc happen more in these kind of cases. So what should be our principle when we are thinking about what is good enough, when we are optimizing our time or resources, thinking about how much should we invest in accessibility compliance, of course keeping the legal mandates in mind. So the principle is that like wherever there are higher stakes, higher accessibility standards have to be in place. So your content's impact determines how far you have to go, right? So the context really determines the optimization level. The AAA challenges no one. So, I mean, we've mentioned that maybe in some cases AAA is also good to have, but most of the features and most of the compliance criteria for AAA are so hard to achieve. And most of the development teams and all, because legal compliance only talks about AA, so they are not even talking about AAA. So let us talk about that a little bit. So one of the major challenges may be that sign language videos. So for every audio or every video, there has to be a sign language interpreter allocated. So for example, it requires the 1.2.6, which is a triple A level criteria. It asks you to provide sign language for all audio. So, but ASL is like American Sign Language or British Sign Language or Indian Sign Language. They're all different languages. Which one to provide? Which sign language serves your audience? If it's a global product, do we record in 3 different languages? Cost may be very high, where because there is a video, there's a person who is signing, there is a video being recorded, and then maybe it's like several hundreds of dollars of per minute of video. 10-minute of video may be recorded in say $5,000 for one language. Another challenge, so reading level say WCAG 3.1.5, 8th grade level reading. So that means that it is so simple to understand that it doesn't impose a lot of cognitive load on the users, which may require a lot of rewriting of the material, employing copywriters. So, and what are the challenges is may not be possible to rewrite everything also. So for example, medical information requires complex terminology. How would you re-record it? How would you rewrite it at an 8th grade level? It's almost difficult or impossible to achieve. Legal documents have to have jargons and terminology as well as precision. Technical documents cannot be oversimplified. There may be technical terms and engineering concepts which are not even introduced at an 8th grade level. So sometimes it is impossible to rewrite at an 8th grade level without losing its semantic meaning. The third challenge may be that extended audio description, for example, WCAG 1.2.7. So pause videos for descriptions. So for example, this is something which disrupts user experience, that every time there is some like 2-5 seconds of scene, it pauses, there is an audio description that runs, then it again starts running. So it is definitely expensive to add those edits in between audio recording and then adding those edits in between, doubles the length of the interaction required, and also disrupts user experience to a large level. So the truth is that some AAA criteria are context dependent. Perfect for one group may reduce usability for another to a large extent. So it is very important. That brings us to understanding the levels of WCAG, and it is very important to understand. So level A is foundation. So it removes or talks about critical barriers. So like basic keyboard access, text alternatives for images, not text alternative for images which are not there, or and just by themselves, like just the level A is not sufficient. From a legal perspective, it's not sufficient alone. Level AA, that's the industry standard, and that's also the legal standard in most of the countries. So meaningful accessibility can be achieved. Color contrasts are 4.5:1. allows for clear navigation. Legal baseline is considered as legal baseline globally. AAA enhances your experience to the next level. Highest accessibility level can be achieved, sign language interpretation, enhanced contrast, often very difficult to achieve fully. So the reality is that double A is the standard target. Triple A is applied selectively where it adds most value. So entire or 100% triple A compliance is not legally required anywhere in the world, but 100% double A compliance is a legal mandate in most parts of the world globally, and just A foundation level compliance is not sufficient by itself. So it's very foundational, and it doesn't include a lot of aspects. Such basic things like color contrast, etc., also fall in the double A category and not in the A category. So basically, we are saying that A is the minimum, double A is recommended, and triple A is the highest level of compliance. So there's something called the diminishing returns curve. I'm sure a lot of engineers and economic honors students may be able to appreciate it. Um, so in order to understand where to stop, right, we have to maybe analyze that diminishing returns curve. That at up to some point, your investment gives you returns which is roughly equivalent to the amount of time or money you are investing, right? And that will give you good return in terms of the value that you are getting out of it. But as you move along the curve, the time and investment may keep growing, but the return kind of starts decreasing. So that is why it is called the diminishing returns curve. So this can help us understand where to stop optimizing and kind of just say, okay, now we are done and we can roll the product and launch it in the market. So up to 80% accessibility effort may be moderate. Some costs are required, but impact is huge. The returns are very high. So because the basics, the foundations, and most of the AA compliance happens up till 80%. All text, keyboards, labels, contrast, all of those barriers are removed. All major roadblocks are removed. 80 to 95% is AA compliant, entirely compliant. So their effort required is significant. Again, 2x of the cost or time may be required. This may require human feedback, human evaluation, not just dependent on can be done just by using automated tools. This may require further testing, where we were talking about all of those other tools and models which you can employ to understand all of those aspects. And AA compliance is also the legal requirement. So but the effort is significant. From 80 to 95 to move, the effort is significant, and the costs may also be roughly the same or more than the previous 80%. But the impact is good. It fixes the focus management, the ARIA labels, the interaction barriers, and most usability issues are covered by 95%. From 95 to 98%, which is your AAA compliance, efforts are very intense. So, and the costs are significantly higher, and the impact is small. So you may be able to see that the effort is increasing and the impact is decreasing. This is what is the meaning of diminishing returns curve. And 98 to 100, it's like extreme. Cost can be almost unlimited, but the impact is almost diminishing, and it's honestly impossible to achieve true 100% accessibility any given point of time. So the biggest gain happens in the first 80%, and AAA gives only marginal improvements at exponential costs. So this is the diminishing returns curve. So as you can see, in the first 80%, this is a double A baseline. We have reached double A baseline by 80%. You can see it's a huge impact, huge impact. Barriers are removed, users receive huge impact. The time and effort required, the money required. Then you can keep increasing, but the impact is not as high, diminishing impact, right? By 95%, we'll be able to achieve double A compliance. So that kind of gives us a good idea of where to kind of stop in our attempt to make our product accessible. But still, sometimes some of the organizations and team aim for a perfect 100, for example. The team aims for 100% AAA before launch, right? So, but what happens in first 3 months, you build the features. In the next 3 months, you are doing the accessibility work. In the next 3 months, trying to hit AAA everywhere. 10 months, still not perfect. Team is burnt out. Launch is delayed. At the end of the year, you're still, at the end of the month 12, you're still, product is not launched. And you are just in that trap of perfection. So competitors, meanwhile, they are shipping AA compliant products. They get all the users. They are able to reiterate the design based on feedback and improve accessibility over time. So this will give them more returns and more better productivity in terms of getting users and profitability also. So the trap is can't launch until perfect. So, but nobody benefits from that because the user is also not getting an impact because your product is still lying on your systems. So, better approach is that you launch with a solid AA compliant. You iterate towards AAA with high impact areas, and you respond to real feedback, user feedback. So wherever there is a need for, okay, this part needs better user experience, maybe you can aspire to include AAA features in that particular segment of user experience. So AA shipped today can offer more benefit than a AAA which is never shipped at all.